In the real world, the Lotus 79 was already dangerous on Monza's traditional Grand Prix layout. Without the concerns for life and limb here in the virtual world, the options are opened up considerably. And as you'd expect, every now and then the drivers opt for the insane. Tacking on the famed oval, for many, a fantasy on this Italian circuit comes true. We'll see how it all shakes out as we get ready to watch round one of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Most race fans will know the boot-shaped version of Monza, but not necessarily this 10-kilometer behemoth. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, Peter, let's be honest, we're probably a little bit more used to on this channel having the other Lotus here at this version of Monza. How do you think these 79s are going to take it?
My goodness, it's going to be quite a challenge for our drivers. Of course, the Lotus 79 with ground effect aerodynamics going to be able to get huge speeds up on the oval, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. Of course, Monza, such a historic venue, opened in August 1922, and the whole facility only took 3 months to build, but took 2,000 workers all at once to get it ready. And actually, quite fittingly, Joe, the circuit was built in reaction to Brooklands in the United Kingdom and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the United States. So this was Italy's answer. And back in 1954, a young Mario and Aldo Andretti went as fans to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. And as Mario says, at that point, the die was cast. They had no other chance than to be racing drivers at that point.
And, well, it's fitting that you bring up Mario because he was the one that actually drove this car here as well. Of course, I'm sure it's not the greatest of memories, him with this car here, since his teammate, Ronnie Peterson, tragically died in this car. That's why I mentioned, thankfully, we don't have to worry about that here today. Now, let's look at the championship, though, of last season with the drivers' points. And Tomas Simon wound up ahead of Gernot Frische in the end by almost a win's worth, just a little bit more than that. Steve Bycroft was a bit of a distance behind, but he was just ahead of Severi Seppa, who definitely gave it a good run last season, but couldn't wind up within the top 3. And then Ascari Rina, a bit surprising to see him down in 5th, but they consistently around at most of the races, but he was certainly quick when he did show up. What about the team's championship? Who came away with the crown there?
So, in the Teams Championship, it was Scuderia Ferrari. That's something we haven't seen for a while. It is Ferrari at the top of a Teams Championship. But yes, they won by 21 points, quite a slim margin over John Player Team Lotus. The Shadow Racing team were third, followed by Williams Grand Prix Engineering and Coppersucker Fittipaldi Automotive.
Now, for today's race details, we have a lot fewer laps, as you would imagine, because it takes a while to get around here. Only 15 that they will circulate around this huge track, and it is open setup in this series. They have some incident limits, not many places where you're going to see them risk off tracks around here, so don't expect it to be too much of a problem. 17, they'll get a drive-through. 25, they'll get a disqualification. I believe we're getting a few drivers just coming around to start their first flying lap. That's how long it takes to get around this place. We have nobody on the board at this time, but it is going to be quite a stacked field here today, Peter, because we have 2 splits and still 33 drivers out on track.
Yeah, it's obviously been a popular combination amongst the members of iRacing. And look at this, Gernot Fritsch with a brand new livery for this season, of course, ran in the James Hunt throwback Marlboro McLaren, and now with the world's fastest yogurt brand, Parmalat, of course, the Parmalat Brabham. And that car with the number 1 plate on it looks absolutely superb. But this is going to be interesting qualifying, Joe, because this is really where you're kind of taking a bit of a leap of faith. They'll have the cars trimmed right down to a properly low downforce setting, and look at the bumpiness. I mean, that must be violent. I hope the guys have got the kickback on their wheels turned down a bit for today.
Yeah, I imagine if they've got any butt kicker gear on their rig, they'll certainly be feeling it as he comes down towards Curva Grande. Let's listen in. Let's see if he keeps it flat out through this corner. Of course, the cars are going to be super trimmed out, but this thing still has a lot of suction. Yeah, sounds like he's on it. He's not lifted. Oh, but he is way to the outside. Look at him struggle around that corner.
Oh my. It was just sort of starting to wander out there. I thought, is he going to catch this? Is he going to catch this? But wow, we needn't doubt Gernot Fritsch, of course, multiple champion here in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And of course, the last season, Joe, it was very much a return to form with a championship going down to the last round. Okay, Gernot just missed out, but much more like it from what we've seen so far.
Absolutely, but with only 2 wins to his name last season. Or actually, excuse me, I think a single win, actually, if I'm looking at his stats correctly last season. The winner last season, Tomasz Simon, just crossed the line, and he goes to pole. So Friscia, as he comes down, where is he going to put it? He's got 1 more corner to go around the Parabolica. Seppa currently provisionally in second. Sean Campbell with a nice run sitting in third. Let's see as the Diatch driver brings around that last 180-degree corner and to the line, which comes quickly. A 2:21.1 is not going to be the top time. He is still on the second row, though.
This is, I think, with qualifying in this particular context, I think the drivers, as long as they can get themselves onto the first few rows, they can be happy. I would be very, very surprised if we see a breakaway today, Joe, because, of course, on this layout, the draft is a lot stronger than normal, so and a lot more important than normal. So I think we should see a bunch of 3 or 4, maybe even more than that, forming at the front of the field.
Another driver who's won races here in the Sunday Grand Prix Series is Andy T. And the number 7, he's just coming around to finish his first timed lap. He won't be able to complete a second one, though, as it takes over 2 minutes to get around here. You can see we've less than that left. And his first one, good enough for 5th. Andy, apparently, I guess one of those who is moonlighting over in the new Dallara IRO1 series, which is taken a shining for many of the cars, or many of the drivers here in the Lotus 79s. Neil Andrews, who we watch sitting in 16th, as we now switch over to Severi Seppa. And I believe, yeah, he does have enough time to try and finish his second lap. Very few of the drivers going to be able to get this second go in.
You can see Severi Seppa there just sliding it around through the Ascari chicane there and up onto the back straight now, up towards Parabolica, using every last rev. Round we go. Is this going to be pole position for Severi Seppa? Another big slide, shows you how trimmed out these cars are, as low downforce as you can possibly can, minimise that drag, maximise top speed. He goes 220.878. Oh, a hundredth of a second off, Joe.
My goodness, Dennis Shaning coming through. Now we've got Gernot Friesche up next. Let's see what he can do, as he's got just enough time to complete it. Shimon does go faster, still less than a tenth ahead of Seppa. Is this going to be enough for pole? He's been slotted down to 8th on this second run through. He crosses the line. It's a 220.8, good enough for the front row with Shimon.
Well, what a clutch there from Gernot Friesche. Looks like Neil Andrews is just going to squeak over the line. 4, 3, 2, 1. He does set a lap time, improves by 3/10. Good stuff.
All right, so that gives us our starting order with Shimon on the pole. It'll be Gernot Friesche starting in second today, with Severi Seppa in third. Sean Campbell with a P4, with Timo Väskylampi on the inside of row 3. And Steve Bycroft starting in 6th position. Jukka Tolinen, P7 for him, with Timo Karhalainen in 8th, Andy T in 9th, and Eduardo Prado in 10th.
Starting from 11th position today in the Lotus 79 Grand Prix Series, it will be Andreas Henkel alongside Peter Smith on row 6. Row 7 sees Martin Granberg and Neil Andrews. Ovi Trengrade, after a brilliant drive in the Lotus 49 Series yesterday, he's back with us here in the Lotus 79 and will start from 15th. Dennis Shanning joining Ovi on row 8. Row 9 will be Michael de Turk and Emil Bernstoff. And finally row 10, Emir Tanyol Carr and I missed the 20th. I'm so sorry.
That was Alexis Vico, with Timothy Reed starting 21st and Christophe Dubois in 22nd. Topi Kortaniemi at 23rd will be followed by Noah Chilla. Then you've got Daniel Banker in the 25th spot. Barry West, 26, is followed by Pablo Suarez in 27th. Bit down for Pablo. John Stevens starting 28th. And the last one with a time is Peter Kineski in 29th. Last of the field will be Sergio Fernandez, Tanner McCullough, Miguel Alcalde, and Alberto Pellegrini. 33 drivers taking to the grid. And in fact, they just start to rev up now as the lights come up. Green flag is out and off the line. Shimon looks good. Gernot does not. He is very slow, as Seppa's already passed him. And I think Väskylampi will be able to get by, as we had a big wreck in the background.
I think that might have been the 31 car there of Daniel Banker getting put on his lid there.
We'll come back to that in a bit. They start to pick up speed. Question is, who is going to rush their way up to the front here early on? Look at them fan out as everybody gets a huge tow, already up to 190 miles an hour.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. Well, you can see where they got their influence from Brooklands and from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway up onto the high bankings we go. Through the forests. Absolutely amazing spectacle here. Only possible in sim racing. And actually, normally the Lotus 49s, they would get quite a lot of air over that little crest, but these cars sucked into the ground with their ground effect aerodynamics.
Seppa moving up to the front, just past Tomas Shimon. Shimon's going to try and keep with it, and 3 wide behind them as they swing it into Curva Grande. As they start to get the tires up to temperature, a few of them are definitely not full throttle. We got another big accident. Looks like Ove Trangrade involved. I saw Peter Kineski as well. Oh, a bad start to this one as they go through the De La Roja chicane.
Bad luck there for Ove Trangrade, and he fortunately got caught up in an incident in the Grand Prix Legends Series 12 weeks ago on this very same track. So not been kind to him at all. Off has gone Severi Seppa. Oh dear, that is a disastrous start to the season for the Finn.
Prado as well. That's 3 separate incidents we've had on the first lap involving multiple drivers. Apparently they hadn't been paying attention to the Lotus 49 drivers, who are very aware of the dangers of the start to this race.
It appears so, yeah, of course. It's so difficult with the tyres being absolutely stone cold and full tanks of fuel as well. These cars burn off fuel at such an extraordinary rate, so the car really evolves over the race distance. But at the beginning, well, it just feels horrible. When those tyres aren't up to temperature, you've got a lot more weight to move around. It is not nice. But Thomas Simon, well, they say that there's two things sure in life, is death and taxes. Well, there's a third. Thomas Simon leading the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series.
Indeed. So he remains in the top spot where he started. Sean Campbell is up into second. Andy T finds himself in third, starting from ninth. Vascalampi managed to survive all that. He's in fourth, and Gernot Frischa falls down to fifth. Let's take a look at the incident into the Curva Grande with Uwe Trengrade. I have no idea actually who this started with. Let's take a glance, see if we can try and wrap our heads around it. Look at all of them just spreading out. Uwe's in the middle of the pack, so no wonder multiple cars got involved. Oh, he put his wheels into the grass, so he actually went off, and then it's behind him that it started to erupt. Let's see, who was that?
Word. Oh my word.
We'll have to come back to the lead, though, because already Sean Campbell challenging Simone for the top spot into the Curva Grande.
That's a bold place to have a look, especially a car on such low downforce trim. To have a look at Curva Grande, it's so fast. You'll be dancing the car on the very edge of grip, but Simone defends beautifully there as well. You can see looking back at Thomas Simon riding on board with the Cosworth DFV engine cover cam, looking back at Sean Campbell, and great to see some old names back in the series once again. We missed Andy T and Teemu Vascalampi last season, Joe, and great to see them straight back to the front where they belong.
Curious how much the draft is worth on the oval, because T is within about a second, but really you look at the next group. A big train here with Vascalampi leading, Gernot, Karjalainen, Hankel, Tolinen, Smith, Grandberg. My goodness, this goes back a long ways, all the way, I believe, to 16th.
Yeah, it's we'll see who can make the moves forward. Gernot Frischa in a really good position, although he started from the front row. He's just dropped back to fifth position, but he's still in the hunt. It's all about just keeping it steady in these opening laps, and he's got a good drafting partner there with Teemu Vascalampi up front as Sean Campbell pops in the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much that fastest lap is really going to be worth with the way you can get the slipstream around here, and it's going to matter so much as Campbell starts to approach. We watch from the gearbox of the number 3, and it looks like he's not as interested here on the oval portion as he pauses and it even breaks out from behind him. I almost wonder if this is almost Talladega style, where you don't want to be riding behind because the car will get too hot.
Well, it certainly might take away a little bit of grip, and you can actually see Campbell there popping out of the draft on purpose there, just trying to give himself a little bit of space from Thomas Simon. He doesn't want to be absolutely on his gearbox. Now look at this, Thomas Simon with Campbell in his draft actually pulling a couple of yards there, Joe.
Yeah, but I think Sean may be lifting a bit. I think he's just playing this one smart, knowing he just has to keep with him. And T is falling back behind them. Really the battle for fourth place. Oh, and a spin from Vascalampi in front of everybody who is behind him. Many cars are having to scatter. Oh, you can see he's trying to hold station. Everybody goes to the outside around him coming off of the corner. Let's take a look at the replay. How did this, did he just lose it on his own, or did he touch the grass? What happened here?
He certainly got big company there, and maybe just just loses it. Wow. God, it went quite early as well, Joe. Just shows you how low downforce kit these guys are running today.
And that yellow car that got into him, or at least went to the outside, that was Karjalainen, I believe. Man, so much has gone down in some of these corners. This is a lot more dangerous for the drivers than I expected. Up at the front, Campbell still rides behind Simone, less than a tenth back. And he's going to come to the oval once again. This will be telling. If he sits behind him again, I think Sean is absolutely just waiting for the later laps to try and decide this one.
I have to say, I don't know how strong the resolution will be in Thomas Simone's rear view mirror, but that helmet is mildly disturbing. Absolutely mildly disturbing. We think, Joe, it might be Nicolas Cage, which makes it...
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, I know we saw for a brief moment we had a cockpit cam. We'll have to see if we can pull that one back up to get a closer look at it. Yeah, he is absolutely waiting behind. Now, this could be important because they do seem to be quicker than Andy T, and he's falling back a little bit. And even popping a little bit out of the slipstream here. Sean Campbell watching from behind Thomas Simone. Most of the action, I think, going to be behind them. Although that spin that we saw from Karjalainen has spread them out, you can see it's now been kind of run down to pairs of cars in this group. The first one, I believe, between Frisha and Hankel for fourth place.
Yeah, this is quite handy here. The two, of course, Parmalat, Brabham drivers, they'll be able to work together a little bit to try and move forward. You see Gernot Frisha there, really letting the car breathe out to the edge of the road there, just letting the car run out nicely. That's really smart driving. Just not panicking, not throwing any steering inputs at it. That's a master at work, Joe.
With all this craziness that's been going on, I'm checking to see if anybody has gained a lot of spots, and I do see Topi Kortaniemi in 13th has come up from 23rd position, and that is with qualifying, mind you. So this wasn't a case of him sandbagging. You can see him riding, actually going to get one more potentially. This is Carr in the number 19 car, who is on the outside in the Ferrari into the Ascari chicane. He's going to fend him off successfly.
Do you think he's running an electric vehicle, an e-car?
I like where you're going with that. But Amir, who is still got the track advantage, the track position, holds to the outside as Topi tries to slip to the inside through that long 180-degree corner. I don't know if he wants to be ahead here because now they come onto the oval portion where the slipstream is going to make it very easy to get right back by.
So fastest lap of the race for Ovi Trengrade back in 14th position, and like you said, Joe, I think that's it's going to be pretty random where all the fastest laps come today. It's all about who gets the strongest draft, really. But speaking of, Thomas Simone is, well, he's got to be. I hope he likes Nicolas Cage movies. Looking back at that car, because that's all he can see in his mirror, and Campbell making sure he's nice and large in the mirror, but just not making the move just yet. Wants to build a little bit more space between them and Andy T in third. Just as I say that, he makes a run.
So not interested in waiting forever. He's going to try and get himself a little bit of track position here, and yes, he is ahead. I wonder if that's just maybe him trying to feel out, okay, what can I do? What have I got when I try and actually make the move? And now he's got that information. Back behind them, T continues to fall back a tenth at a time, essentially, each lap. He's down to 1.8 behind them. It's got to be so hard breaking into that Della Rosa chicane. Looking at this group coming down into that very chicane right now, as Amir is still ahead of Topi, and they're bringing along Trangarade, who has recovered from his early off and is back into 13th.
Yeah, he actually had to take evasive action again with the Vascalampi spin. Had to go out into that gravel trap, the same gravel trap he'd been in before. So Ovi Trengrade definitely exploring the extended version of the extended Monza circuit, Ovi Trengrade style, but up into 13th. Great drive so far from the Lotus 49 front runner. And I say it, I think I must say it every week, Joe. Our viewers must be bored of it, but I'm going to allow myself it one more. I love the simplicity of this Honda Japan livery that Ovi runs.
Yeah, what's amazing is he's actually still up 2 positions from where he started this race, even with 2 major off tracks, as he watches the fight in front of him. Looks like Topi learned his lesson this time. He's not trying to attack into the Parabolica. He's waiting for it and looks for the run, the draft off and onto the oval. Oh, it had another incident. This time he hit the wall into the Parabolica. I wonder if that's going to be day over.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's take a look at how this happened. Did he get a little bit of a touch, or did he find himself spinning off? He already had a little bit of damage.
Yes, the front wings snapped. Already, there's about half of it missing there before.
Yeah, I think that was because of his involvement with the spin that he had in Curva Grande. And unfortunately, just finished the car off a little bit as he took it into pit lane afterwards. Meanwhile, Sean Campbell still ahead of Simone. Simone does not try and re-attack. He's going to sit behind this time and be content with second place. For those curious just how steep the strength of field is in this top split, we have over 3,800 strength of field, which is pretty stunning. 11th place has a nice little fight going on that we've been glancing at, with Topi still fighting with Amir. Amir stays defensive down into the Della Roja chicane, but he overshoots it by quite a bit. He's going to have to collect the car up as Topi easily breezes by.
Yeah, good move there from Topi Cortinemi, and the beautiful red wine, almost burgundy coloured machine there as well, matching his car that he runs in the Grand Prix Legends series as well. Whoa, big slide there. Big slide. Now, who was that?
It was Amir.
That was Amir car, yes. Goodness me.
Unfortunately, losing yet another position. Now he's got Alexis Tapiavico behind him as Trangrade was able to get through into 12th. Down through the Ascari chicane and a little bit off on the exit. Topi Cortiniemi finds himself struggling with the limits himself. And they approach the Parabolica, but wise to how this track races. Ove, having run this plenty of times in the Lotus 49, he does not attack. He waits for the oval portion. Now he knows he's going to be able to simply cruise on past as they start to pick up speed.
Yeah, winding it all the way up into top gear. They'll have the gearing set very, very tall for these cars to try and maximise that top speed. And you actually think that even in their lowest downforce setting, Joe, they are still, it's still a draggy car, isn't it? You would think what this combination would be capable of with that big power plant, that Cosworth DFE in the back.
Well, yeah, and for reference, the Lotus 49s top out at about 214 miles per hour, and Ove with the slipstream there was at 194. So yeah, they definitely want that cigar tube layout, excuse me, on this thing rather than what it was set up for, which was the corners. Things get awful tight behind him. Topi almost got run into by Amir there.
That was very, very close. These guys are playing for keeps now as well. And for context, for the comparison with the Lotus 49, the Lotus 49 makes do with nearly 100 horsepower less as well, even though it's the same basic motor.
And do we have an incident between Simone and Campbell here? Trying to figure out... looks like down into the Della Roja chicane, things were awful tight, but I do believe Tomasz did re-overtake him. He's back into the lead. So they've been swapping back and forth. This did allow... Ove Trangrade has fallen off and loses a whole heap of positions. I think this happened into the second Lesmo, and I think yet another visit to the gravel for that Honda liveried Lotus.
Oh, well, at least with it being white, the scratches won't show up as much on it. Dear me. Tell you what, that was a bit of damage, very good damage limitation once more again from Ovi Trangrade to not end up in the wall there, and looks to be okay on the outside, but of course what damage has been done underneath is obviously very important to the performance of this vehicle, Joe. Do you think he might be struggling from a bit of floor damage now?
I have to imagine. I can't think that he'd get away from that lucky 3 times. So the car's got to be a little bit slower in a straight line. We're looking at the battle for 5th place. This is Jukka Tolinen bringing along Henkel and Peter Smith. Peter coming over from the Camel GT series as well. We're used to seeing him run there in the 80s machinery and the Nissans. And backing out of it from Andreas Henkel shows where his mind lies. We're down to 8 laps to go at this point. We're barely at the halfway point.
Just shows you that it is a long time. It's a long race. You've really got to keep your concentration level up across the whole time, because these cars they're lively at the best of times, but when you have to run them in such low downforce trim, that just gets exaggerated as they go flying through where the first chicane would normally be. Just don't worry about that. Straight through, it's okay. And then through Curva Grande, and oh, dear me, just hanging on by their fingernails. And then all of a sudden, I've got to pull it back down to first gear, almost to a dead stop. It must feel like a dead stop.
Now Tolinen's going to come out in that 5th spot. Henkel back in 6th and Peter in 7th. You know, as I watch all that's happening with our front runners, I almost feel like Andy T, who's so close on pace, maybe might want to lift a bit and let Freesia catch him. Maybe play a little bit of leapfrog, and those two can be faster together. I don't know. I haven't gotten to run in these cars like I have in the Lotus 49, so just kind of spitballing ideas for him.
Well, it's I tell you what, if he had Don Peak as a tow hook, he'd be able to make that move up there, no problem.
Of course, my father running over in those Lotus 49s often, especially here as we look at the top 2. A little wide there for Tomasz. Obviously, one thing that we mentioned that was added in the Camel series that I wonder if they're starting to experience here, Peter, is brake fade is now a significant concern in the old Nissan and the Audi. I'm kind of curious if they've included that in the Lotus 79 as well.
I wonder, because of course even the Nissan is still a slightly heavier car than this, so obviously that's going to put more attention on the brakes. But that would be interesting. And of course, I mean, here when they are using the brakes, it's from 200 miles an hour down to about 50, so you really are asking quite a lot of them as well. But on the other hand, though, I suppose, Joe, at this point the brakes are getting plenty chance to cool off.
Yeah, that's a good point. So even though they've got a few heavy braking events, there's not many of them around this track. So speeding up once again to 192 miles an hour as they head into the Curva Grande. It is still Shimon ahead of Campbell. But the fight for 5th place sees Henkel briefly ahead of Tolinen. They're going to go side by side, and a big lift. Henkel says, no, I don't think it's really worth it at this stage in the race. Backs out and goes single file.
Just taking their time as well. Oh, as I say that, the Parmalat machine just having a little look on the inside. That's Andreas Henkel in the 21 car with the Michael Schumacher replica helmet on there. Has a little look up the inside going into the first Lesmo. Decides, thinks better of it, and probably wise indeed. And Smith in 7th in the Renault. Brilliant run so far from Peter Smith.
Yeah, to put it in your terms, I have to imagine that Schumacher was just a wee lad at this stage when this car ran. And Henkel still trying to see if he can get close, but braking much earlier. Oh, Tolinen is in very hot. Manages to keep it off of the tall curbs somehow. I'm not sure how, because that thing was a bullet into that chicane.
Yeah, well held there from Jukka Tolinen, running in 5th, running in the head of this little 3-car pack here as well. And actually not too much, not really any dive bombing or anything going on here. A lot of the drivers just in this little trio looking to think, well, we'll just stay in this little group. We'll just not try and slow each other up one too much and try and work our way forward. And Gernot Fritzsche, he's kind of marooned out on his own little island there in 4th place. So they might well catch Gernot if they're clever.
You know, speaking of a climb back forward, we mentioned Trangarade. Severi Seppa is still fighting in this race incredibly. He started in 3rd. He's back up to 11th, but only just barely to his side. Once again, we've been seeing him a lot. Amir Kar.
Well, Severi Seppa, he's actually, his fastest lap is in fact half a second quicker than Simone and Campbell. So yeah, showing you what Seppa has in the tank. There he is, and trying to work his way forward. And no sign of Oskari Rinna so far, Joe. Hopefully we won't miss him all season.
Yeah, wasn't able to show up today, unfortunately, but I expect he'll make some appearances as they come off the banking once again. Whoa, things got very shaky on the low side there for Seppa as the car bobbled around at 190 plus miles per hour. It's going to try and come back at him. I wonder if they're even employing a little bit of side draft here.
That is a Talladega job, isn't it? The side draft boogie. So you see, Severi Seppa, this is an important drive for Severi because, of course, you've got to think that Severi will have championship ambitions. But Simone has just been so good, and that will not help. You know, oh, is he going to go for the... Now, that is very, very clever there by Severi Seppa. He will lose a lot of positions, but he didn't rush that, Joe, because if he had, he would have gone over that sausage curb, and that would have been, whoa, big, big damage.
Yeah, but look at how it just sunk him in the midst of a whole bunch of cars. So now it's going to be tough for him to try and weave his way through them once again. He will get the slipstream on the oval and be able to try and kind of pick his way past, but it's wasting yet more time that I'm sure he'd like to be at the front of this group and try and pull away from them. We're down to 6 laps to go. Carr still in the 11th spot ahead of Bernstorff, Korteniemi, and Tapia Vico.
Very important for Severi Seppa. Like we said, he will have championship aspirations, but with Thomas Simone being so consistent, he can't afford to give any form of gap because Thomas Simone will press home that advantage. But at the front, Sean Campbell's still keeping Thomas Simone honest, and well, with 5 laps to go, it's impossible to call who's going to take that one.
We're going to glance at 5th place, where Tolinen is once again being caught by Hankel. And look at him fan out 3 wide once again. Hankel to the outside as Smith behind them watching, pulls alongside. Tolinen loses 1 spot, but not 2. He falls back into 6th place, up ahead of them. I've been keeping half an eye on Andy T. And just to mention, as we got a jump ahead of them, Campbell, who got right up close behind Simone, then just backed out of it. Now, the reason I mentioned T, it's down to 1.4 seconds at times. So T, gaining little bits of time here and there, could maybe run them down.
I tell you what, Thomas Simone there getting actually a couple of wheels onto the grass, and that must have caused Sean Campbell to back out of the throttle, and that's going to give Andy T the little bit. Oh, Sean Campbell's, I think he's having to serve a slowdown penalty.
Did he cut it too tight?
Oh no!
Let's watch it from above here. I think he went way too close to that curb. Yeah. Oh, no. Well, this is what Andy T wanted exactly, because T is now right up behind him, but Campbell is about a second away from Simone.
Well, now this may sound ridiculous, mainly because it's coming out of my mouth, and most of the stuff that comes out of my mouth is ridiculous, but Sean Campbell there has made a mistake. Now, if Andy T weren't there, that would be his chances of victory gone, because Thomas Simone's not going to give away that kind of gap within 5 laps. However, with Andy T to work with, Campbell and T could now work their way together with the slipstream and catch Simone. So actually, if you're going to make a mistake, that was the time to do it.
Yep, so now we'll see T be able to actually reel in that number 11. And once he gets past him, Sean Campbell can use that to get a slipstream himself. It's a 2 heads are better than 1 situation, which is one of the unique aspects of this style of racing at this track. Here he's going to be able to get by. Now, will he stall out? How much faster is he going to be, or is Sean going to actually have to lift? He might actually have to lift to help him through, and he's not going to do it.
Well, I tell you what, I still can't take my eyes off Sean Campbell's helmet there. I swear I'm going to have nightmares about that. It's quite spooky. Oh, look at this, side by side up on the old high banks of Monza. Absolutely stunning stuff. But Andy T looks like he's going to seal this up. Yes, he has. But will Sean Campbell, will he try and redraft back? Let's see. It doesn't look like it.
And they're already 1.3 seconds behind Shimon. Only 4 laps to go, so they can't dilly-dally too much. They've really got to work together to see if they can catch up to him. Speaking of that helmet, our director realized that it says, "I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence" on the top of it, in reference to one of Cage's movies. I'm hoping maybe we can get a different quote each week if Sean keeps showing up. I vote for not the bees next time.
There's got to be a Gone in 60 Seconds one in there as well. There's got to be.
I'm certain. Yeah, that would be the most appropriate for sure.
Maybe we could get a classic Porsche series on iRacing, and he could have Con air cooled.
Excellent. Well played, sir. As he backs out of it on the way into Ascari, trying to give himself some space as they come up to the oval here in about one more corner. And then he should be able to move his way past. Now, will T do the same? Will T try and lift and let Campbell through to try and use each other to get a little bit more speed and catch up to Shimon? Behind them, Gernot Frisch is still only about 1.4 seconds back, and then you get a 5.5 second gap to Tolanen, our first really giant leap to the next cars, with Tolanen ahead of Hankel and Smith.
These guys cannot be separated, can they? But whoa, Peter Smith just nudging past Henkel there on the run and snips his nose off a little bit, but still Tolanen playing the front runner. And you've got to think, when are these guys behind them going to play the move? But back to our new draft buddies, Campbell and T. They're trying. You can tell what they're trying to do, Joe.
But they're not swapping it back. T is still holding with them as they fly through the oval and up and over the crest. There you caught a glance of Shimon, now 1.6 seconds ahead. Oh, almost looks like he's chopping him off. Could they potentially do a bump draft situation? You think that's too dangerous? Now,
you probably won't be surprised to hear I've not tried it before. I don't know.
No
I know
time like the present.
The F3 cars can bump draft, which is a ridiculous notion. But, well, it depends how much they want this win. And as we know, it's, if Nicolas Cage can jump a Shelby 500 Mustang 300 metres and carry on driving, then sure you can bump draft the Lotus 79.
I'd be willing to give it a shot, if I'm honest. Oh, a mere car has gone off. And once again, this happened in the Curva Grande. Let's see if the replay shows us anything. I think this was another case of him losing it on his own. He was very close on the entry. Yeah, and then he just finds himself slipping out into the grass. A lot of cars having to take evasive action. That was Seppa, Vico, and Trangarade.
He's like, I've got it. I've not got it. Oh. Well, Trangarade was back in Trangarade Beach again for the third time.
I like that name. We're gonna have to stick with that one as they work their way around with now 3 laps to go. Make that 2 laps to go as Shimon just went by. And we're up to 1.8 seconds. T and Campbell may have lost their opportunity. I think they're just too far back at this point.
It certainly is a tall ask, that's for sure, for Andy T and Sean Campbell. They are trying their very best, but, well, this is Thomas Simon's march continues. He's been on such a winning streak lately, and nobody really able to come close. And Sean Campbell was in the position there to have a go, but he'll really be ruining that opportunity to unseat the current reigning champion.
Yeah, Shimon won the last 3 races at the Glens, Holder, and Road Atlanta. The only reason he didn't win the one before at Barber, because he wasn't there. So he was certainly on a tear. Interesting to note, since I mentioned Camel GT as well, the last driver to win when the last time that they were at this layout in Lotus 79, Fabian Gerber, multi-time champion over there in that series.
Yeah, that is a good one, isn't it? It's course, here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Where, oh my word, we nearly see Andy T go off there. Wow, it shows you how much the car wanders over with that lack of downforce, but Andy T just hangs on. But yes, here on Global SimRacing Channel all weekend, we have 3 different series here on the iRacing platform. Lotus 49s, the Grand Prix Legends, Camel GT with the wonderful turbocharged Nissan GTP and Audi GTO Quattros, and then of course here with the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix series. We're spoiled for classic action.
I always love to cover these vintage cars. But right now, T and Campbell more concerned about the race in front of them, and it's become a battle for best of the rest as Simone is fully up to 2 seconds ahead of them at this point. They're going to get the white flag. Wow, T is hanging it out, though.
He certainly is. He is trying. 2 seconds now, the gap between Andy T and Thomas Simone. So Thomas has got this one in the bag. We'll need to just try and stroke it home from here. But looks like, I think Andy T and Sean Campbell will know that now, and they will just be going for the best of the rest prize. But look who's just sort of sneaking his way up in the background there. Gernot Fritzsche, the wily old fox.
Yeah, he's cut it down to 1.3 seconds. I'm not sure if he's going to be quite close enough, though. But with these two fighting, and I imagine there's going to be some side-by-side racing into these last few corners, he could easily gather that up and try and get himself onto the podium.
Well, he's certainly getting close now, is Gernot Fritzsche. Maybe just outside of drafting range, but Andy T and Sean Campbell, they're going to start battling here, and they go side by side on the high bank of Monza. Oh! Wow, I thought Campbell was in the wall there. How did he hold on to that one?
Trying to keep from banging wheels as they go over the bumps there. Who is the bravest of the brave? Inside goes to Andy T right now as they come up to Curva Grande. This is a much more difficult turn than you'd expect. It's actually a turn now for these cars compared to modern Formula One machinery. And T gets mildly ahead, but he starts to get loose, has to catch the car. And coming back forward, Sean Campbell has the advantage, but he brakes early. They're side by side down into De La Rocha, and they come together. A spin as Sean Campbell waits for him to come back, but now he has to get going because here comes Gernot Fritzsche.
Well, we said that Gernot Fritzsche would be there to grab the scraps, and well, too wide through the first chicane there is really not easy to do, and that showed. Clang of the wheels, and around Andy T went. Sean Campbell's still in second, but you have to think, Joe, that he's maybe got some damage on that car, and that's going to allow Fritzsche to get by.
Looks like he's got good speed as they run down to Ascari, and he easily outbrakes him down into this final chicane. Can he keep it together? Yes, he can. Fritzsche up into second place at the last moments, but ahead of it all, Tomas Simone. And his Ferrari liveried number 3 looks unstoppable today. Tomas Simone is going to take the win here in the first round of the season at Monza.
Brilliant drive from our defending champion, Tomas Simone. Absolutely superb stuff. And Gernot Fritzsche following him home, continuing his strong run of form. And very nice, Sean Campbell has let Andy T through and gives him the 3rd place. Excellent sportsmanship there from Sean Campbell. He thought he'd have a go at Gernot first, and then thought, no, I'll step back. Really nice to see. And whoa, got a little bit of action going over the line.
As the drivers finish off all the way down to 26th position on the lead lap. It is that long of a lap around here in spite of cars having all sorts of problems. Believe looks like pretty much all of our battles are just about done. Let's take a look at what happened here a little farther down, because Peter Smith had some sort of issue. Oh, he spins off in Ascari. That would have been for a top 5 spot, and he loses so many of them just streaming by at the very end. So that's going to close us out, but we've got more show to come as we've got the official results as well as driver interviews coming your way. welcome back to Monza, the combined course here for the first round of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series was pretty wild, which we kind of expected, but Tomas Simon basically rode ahead of it all, briefly having some challenge from Sean Campbell, but unfortunately Sean's mistake cost him the track position, and he fell back, eventually finishing in fourth. But it was Gernot Friesche took second behind with Andy T in third, and there you see Sean Campbell back in P4, giving that third spot to T after he felt guilty wrecking him coming into the De La Roja chicane. Hankel took P5 with Tolanen in 6th and Martin Granberg in 7th. Michael de Turk from 17th to 8th. He's got to be feeling good about that one, with Neil Andrews in 9th. Peter Smith rounds out your top 10.
In 11th place today was Emil Bernstoff with a recovering Severi Seppa, who went off early on and charged back up the pack, but still finishing 12th. Ovi Trengerade, well, the Beach Boys, led by Ovi Trengerade, through the gravel 3 or 4 times and still manages to get it home in 13th position. Dennis Shanning was 14th, followed by Alexis Tapiavico, Topi Cortinemi, Emir Daniel Carr, Pablo Suarez, Miguel Alcalde, and Eduardo Predo.
In 21st, it was Sergio Fernandez with Steve Bycroft in the 22nd position. One of our drivers not qualifying and starting dead last on the field, Alberto Pellegrini, went up to 23rd, and Peter Koneski was 24th. Then it was Tanner McCullough in 25th and John Stevens in 26th. Last 2 cars to finish on the lead lap. Dubois just managed to come home 3 laps down to 27th. From there, it was DNFs with Barry West, Karjalainen, Reed, Vaskilampi, Chilla, and Banker. I believe we've got our second place finisher, Gernot Friesche, here with us. Gernot, a bit of a surprise second place. Did you expect those two to come together, knowing that it was going to be a fight at the end?
Hi, Joe. Yeah, of course, I knew there would be a fight, so I couldn't expect them to come together. But at least I was, looking for a chance maybe in case they got into trouble. And so, in the end, it was a lucky finish for me.
Obviously, you had to expect that there would be some slipstream battles throughout the day. Did this kind of go to plan for you on how you expected this one to unfold?
I would say yes. I think I was also a little bit lucky that I could pull away from a guy behind me, so from Andreas, who was really putting some pressure on me, then made a small mistake. So then it got a little bit easier because I just had to try to get into the draft from Andy. Maybe if I was lucky, made it a little bit harder in mid-race because I had a black flag and I had to yield a second. And then I started all over again. And in the end, I just tried to stay close to the podium positions.
Now, we've got some new content coming next week with Hockenheim. Have you had a chance to take the 79 out there yet?
No, not yet. Still need to buy the track. So, looking forward to that. It's an iconic track for sure. And we'll see how it goes there.
All right. Well, we'll look out for you, Gernot. Congratulations on a podium today.
Thanks, guys. Congrats to Thomas again and to Andy as well for P3.
Another second place for Friesche. Definitely racked up a few of those last season. But for third, with a lot of action at the end, Peter's caught up with Andy T.
Andy T, well, you've made your return to the series here in the Lotus 79s with a bit of a bang. How did you enjoy that one?
Hello, guys. That was fun, wasn't it? Oh, boy. So first things first, I upper MP quali. Don't bad qualify. I was busy messing with my clutch and then looked at the clock and I'm like, I'm only getting 1 lap in here. Oh, no.
Well, it didn't seem to hold you back. You had a great job there running down Sean. Now, my first question is, did Sean's helmet put you off in any way? Because I have to say I find it rather disturbing.
No, I actually look at the corners, Peter. You might want to try doing that.
That's probably why you're quite good at this.
I'd say that helps, yeah.
Well, you can watch the broadcast back and you'll see what I mean as well. Now, tell us about the battle you guys had there at the end, because were you trying to work together, at least initially, to try and catch Tomas?
No, I don't work together. I'm in a race. So I'm racing. It's that simple. With that few laps to go, and when you know you've got the pace on the guy in front, you race. Sorry, Tamash was not catchable at that point, draft or otherwise. So it was racing time. Much like that lap 1, by the way. My lap 1, I just watched it back, and someone would say big onions were required there.
Indeed, trying to give our viewers an impression of of what the car is like on cold tires with such a full fuel tank. I mean, how does it behave in those opening laps?
It's sluggish is the word. It just misbehaves. It doesn't want to turn in. It won't slow down, and you can't put the power down. But after lap and a half, it's fine. You can start pushing. You just have to be careful with your bars and make sure you keep the car in balance as the fuel burns off. Speaking of keeping the car in balance, I'm glad you asked this question, Peter. So this season, every Monday night, we have a hosted session. And my goal is to have a coaching session running where anyone can jump into our Discord, the CTC Discord, and just talk to me or another driver, whoever it might be, and learn the car. We'll answer any questions. We'll look at your laps. We'll help you get to the top of this series.
Well, that's a very generous offer indeed, and we urge any of our viewers here on the Global SimRacing Channel, if you're an iRacing user, come and join the guys. And of course, fitting time to bring it up, Andy. Of course, that session will be focused towards the brand new Hockenheim next week, which should be exciting.
Yeah, it should be great, and I'm racing that in the IRO1 as well. So, yeah, double whammy for me next week. It'll be fun. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Andy, thanks so much for coming in to chat to us, and I might have to pop in myself on Monday evenings for some coaching.
Please do. Thanks again for the broadcast, guys.
All right, so good stuff there from Andy T, and I love the frankness of his responses, and just a racer through and through. That's going to wrap us up, though, and we want to thank the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But also, we got to give a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how you can get hold for more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Peter, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store at gsrc.storenv.com. We've got a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to find. While you're down there, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Up next, we mentioned it, Hockenheim will be Sunday, March 28th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm eager for that one. It'll be our first time covering that track, I believe, on the channel. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Later tonight, though, the PRL's NASCAR Cup Series is going to be at Atlanta. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss out. Until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.